just took an incredible poo. I think I should start my first podcast ever, you know, talking about a bowel movement and what would be more fitting for a guy like me. Episode 1 of SUPcast. What's up, everybody? Sup, humans in the world that I'm broadcasting to. This is a brand new thing that I'm trying to do. We have no subscribers. Other than there's like 1,000 subs on the YouTube, and we're going to be posting this, like trying to do a YouTube / audio thing. So here's the visual. We are in the van. I purchased this van 3 years ago today, which it was like a monumental occurrence. Because I had this van that my name's Neil Patterson. Like I had this van. I'm in this rock band called Downtown Brown, and I've been doing it for like 20 years. We started in like 2001, but before that, I had this band in high school that essentially was the same band, just with different people and a different name. So it's like I've been doing this music thing for like, about 20 years. And I don't know what to really talk about or like how to like format this, but I guess I'm just gonna like run my mouth a whole lot. I'm here with my producer in life. Allie is producing the show right now. It's in a van, like we have the van running, and I figure what is more fitting for a guy like me than to do a podcast out of a van. And the other question is, like, I bet there's probably like 6 to like 12 people that already had this idea and they're already doing it and they're calling it something Vancast or like I'm in a van, check me out. But this is everyone. We asked everyone on the internet what I should call my podcast, and I say sup a lot, so we're gonna call it the SUPcast, and this is like episode 1 of the SUPcast. Yeah, hashtag SUPcast. And out in California, there's a thing called SUP, stand up paddleboard, and I haven't done it yet, but everyone's telling me, like my roommate Greg is telling me it's a great upper body workout. So I'm gonna try supping in Florida, where we are parked on a street in Fullerton, California, taping the first episode of SUPcast. And we're not really taping anything because it's a digital feed. Everything we do is digital. There's a laptop. There's a digital camera. So there's no taping going on whatsoever. It's a straight digital feed, which we will put up on the internet for hopefully people will listen to it at some point. And this is an interesting day in my life in 2019 because I'm somewhat at a crossroads. 2019 is gonna be the year where I try some different stuff. Like, and I don't know if any of you have been like transfixed on a goal or like found yourself in a lifestyle where you just do the same thing over and over and over and over again. That's kind of like what my life has become, especially in the last 10 years. I started this rock band in like 2001, and since 2007 we were doing this national touring thing where I've been essentially driving around in a van and playing shows and trying to cultivate some sort of a career in the music industry, which is it's somewhat of an impervious task. It's not an easy thing to do, and anyone who is actually out there doing it like knows that it could be very rewarding at times, and it could be incredibly fun getting on stage and playing music that you came up with and seeing a genuine reaction from concert goers in the audience. It could be a wonderful thing, but it can be a source of, financial destitute and despair and heartbreak and when you're a little kid, and I don't know how many of you humans grew up like this, you had adults telling you that you're special and that you can do anything you want with your life if you just put your mind to it. What the mind can conceive, the heart can achieve. I don't even know if I'm quoting that correctly, but I don't know what to say. I was a kid when I decided I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I was 17 years old, and I remember to this day, I started this band in my friend's basement in like 1995. As early as I can remember having an instrument, owning an instrument, I was in a band immediately. which is wild because it's like I didn't take a whole lot of time like getting to learn the thing before I was like, I need to play with other people. And it wasn't something that I like thought of. I'm like, it wasn't something I planned out. I was in middle school and I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, and we had like 4 friends that we just happened to all buy instruments. And it was like a race. I remember I was in elementary school and this kid, Robin, this British guy, he bought a guitar and I just remember being like, I need one of those. If this dude has one, I need one. And we were like listening to Megadeth and stuff and in a lot of the same music. And I'm like, he has a guitar. I need a guitar. And then next thing I know, I'm in a band with this guy. We're like in middle school and we're playing in Alex Fleming's basement. It happened like there was like no thought. There was no planning. It's like Guns N' Roses was on MTV in 1988. 91, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And as soon as one of my friends had a guitar, I'm like, I need one of those. So, and then as soon as I had like more than one friend with a guitar, I had one friend that had a drum set. It's like, we're in a band. We were in a band immediately. We didn't even know what we were doing. We just like, okay, drummer, guitar player. Sooner or later, a bass player came along. It's like, we're a band. We were a band, like, there was no question, like, is this the right person for the band? Should we find another member? No, it's just like that guy, and that guy. Like, these guys have instruments. We're a band. We were a band immediately. And it was Ryan Prendergast and me, Robin Horlock, and Alex Fleming. And we were just like creative kids in a predominantly white suburb of Detroit. Who, we had parents that, like, we were just lucky. We grew up in a town where it's like, the schools were good and the arts were pushed and like, I don't know, my mom like pushed me to do what I was passionate about. And I was like, I want to play the guitar. Like I wasn't in it. Like she wanted me to take piano lessons. I wasn't into that. But as soon as I got a guitar, I was like obsessed. I was literally obsessed. And that's all I did is I just sat in my basement and I like learned every single song by the bands I like. And the more bands I discovered, the more of their music I learned. And yeah, I've just been in bands since I can remember. I just had a birthday, February 2nd. I'm an Aquarius. I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's any meaning behind that astrology crap. I'm agnostic as far as most things are concerned. Like, I'd like to believe that there's meaning. I'd like to believe that there's Bigfoot. I'd like to believe there's aliens. I'd like to believe there's life after death, but I don't know. I don't know about any of this stuff. I don't have firm beliefs. I'm just kind of walking around. I'm like, whoa, this is weird. And I've been doing that my whole life. This is weird. But back to, I'm so, like, long story short, I'm 38 years old. And I've been in a band since middle school. And that's all I ever wanted to do. All I remember is the first show that I played when it was like a talent show or something. It was like sophomore year of high school. It's just like, I want to do this all the time. And then people started saying, hey, like, you guys were good. And I'm like, and getting on a microphone, there's something about like being in front of people. I was just like, I enjoy this. I can get people's attention. Like, I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself in order to like garner some sort of reaction from the public. So I went for it. And there's a photo of me where my face is painted blue. It's like from 3rd grade or whatever. It's before I played guitar. But I always had the ability to sing or like mimic mouth noises when I was a little kid. So I got cast in this like choir thing that, like, when I was in, I think it was like in like 3rd grade, and I got cast as the lead in this like little skit where I was the little blue man, and it's just a silly like children's song, and it it essentially followed around this like creepy blue man like stalking this girl, and just him proclaiming over and over again that he loved this person. But yeah, I was like, but the class decided it's like, hey, this is the guy that we're going to paint his face blue, and we're going to give him a big blue wig, and we're going to like deck him out in just blue clothes, and he's going to like chase this girl around, and all the parents and kids are going to laugh. And I loved it. ever since I was a little kid. Like I went on this trip when I was in 8th grade with I had these sort of well-to-do friends, and I was like best friends with this guy, and his parents would take me on like crazy trips. Like they had a lot of money, so we went whitewater river rafting when I was in 8th grade. We went whitewater river rafting down the Arizona River, not the Arizona River, the Colorado River in Arizona, like pretty much like at the base of the Grand Canyon, and they had like talent night or something. I was in 7th grade, and I'm like, what's my talent? I just got up in front of people and just like did an Axl Rose impression and just like made a bunch of weird noises. And everyone stared at me, and I was like, I was just naturally inclined to do that. It just made sense. So like once I learned guitar, it's like, okay, I'm naturally inclined to get up in front of people and like make a complete ass out of myself in order to get attention, or in order to get validation, because I just, I was a chubby kid. I just wanted people to think I was cool or funny. So now that I had this guitar in my hand and I had this ability to just like do whatever it took to like get everyone's attention in the room, I like combined the two. I didn't think about it for 1 second. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this forever. I'm gonna do this forever. And then people started saying, like, when we started doing the band thing, they're like, you guys are really good. They started saying there was actual ability to go along with just the core elements of here's a guitar and here's a kid that just like wants to freak people out and make people laugh. And so started to like do gigs around town, and I just remember there was this younger band in high school. I went to high school in Northville. Northville it's a western, predominantly white, mid to upper middle class suburb of Detroit. And it was kind of a small town when I was living there. Like once I moved out, it like really blew up. A lot of yuppies moved there, but I just remember there was this young band, and they were called the Household Punks, and they they were passing out flyers for. They're like, we're going to play the show at St. Andrews Hall. And I don't know, St. Andrews Hall is a historic music venue in Detroit. It's on 431 East Congress in Detroit, Michigan. And growing up and like being into music, like I saw so many bands there. I saw like all my favorite punk bands, like the first punk show I ever went to was like Guttermouth, and it was in the basement of St. Andrews Hall. The place is also called The Shelter, which everyone asked me, they're like, oh, you're from Detroit, Eminem, 8 Mile, Shelter, like, yeah, same building. It's just a really historic building. So like, I'm like, so this younger band has this opportunity to play this legendary venue. I'm like, how do we get on that? And we found out you got to hit up this dude Gary, and you got to call him up, and then you got to sell tickets, and then it's a battle of the bands. There's like 20 bands, 20 young high school bands selling tickets one night in Detroit. And this was like the beginning of my senior year of high school. And or maybe it was junior year of high school. I don't know. No, it was my senior year of high school, because we ended up putting out that album. Yeah, it was 1998. And so we got the tickets, we sold a bunch of tickets, and then we got all our friends to come down to St. Andrews Hall. And then the younger band played, and just imagine like being on the stage that you saw your heroes play, like Social Distortion, Guttermouth, Descendants, Circle Jerks, like all of these like punk bands that I was obsessed with. And then all of a sudden, like, you're on that stage, the place is packed, and it's just a bunch of people that have been sitting around listening to crappy high school bands, like, the entire night. They're just, like, they're bored out of their mind, and they're just there because they're there to support their friends. And, like, it was like one of the most magical moments of my entire life. Like, when we started playing, it's like I knew exactly where I wanted to be. And that feeling, I've been chasing that high. That was in what, 1998? Yeah, it's 2019 right now. I've been chasing that high for 21 years, because not only was it the most amazing feeling to play in front of that many people. And to do it at a venue where you saw so many of your heroes take the stage, like we won the battle of the bands. And I know it sounds silly, but like it wasn't just like a high school battle of the bands. It was like a citywide thing where it was just a bunch of different high school kids selling tickets and trying to get their friends to come to the show. And like, and out of all the bands, like there's like 20 bands, like we won. And that moment changed my life. I remember like we left to go smoke weed. We left the venue because there's a shitload of other bands, and we're just like, oh, like we don't want to stay here. So like we got in a car and we drove around. Remember, we were driving around with my friend Dan. There's a lot of one-way streets in Detroit, and he was taking like wrong turns down one ways, and we were like screaming, and there's cars screeching, and they're like hitting the horn, and we're just a bunch of kids, and we're all like just lighting up a bowl and like getting really high after we just played this amazing set. We were just like young and stupid and like totally high on life, and acting dangerously dumb, taking wrong turns on one-way streets in downtown Detroit, having people honk at us, and it's just like, yeah. So, but like somehow we didn't get in an accident. We found a place to park. We made it back into the venue, and then so we're just a little high, and we're hanging out in the balcony of the venue, and the show concludes. All the bands play, and they announce that we won. We won this thing. And I just remembered, like, it was probably, like, hands down, like, one of the best days of my entire life. And it really sowed the seeds of addiction that I didn't really know existed, like, in my psyche at the time. But it was, like, one of the first times I ever, like, got obsessed with something. And it was validated. Like, I was always obsessed with getting on a microphone and saying dumb stuff, and obsessed with playing the guitar. And then now here's this validation, like citywide battle of the bands. Like we won, and then we were able to go and get some free studio time. We were able to record our first album in the year 1998, and I just remember we were leaving St. Andrews Hall, and there's a homeless gentleman, and we're just like all high and like high on life and high on marijuana. And the homeless gentleman, he asked us for some money, and I don't know if we gave him money or not. I'm assuming that we did, but all we could talk about is we won. We won the battle of the bands. And I remember so vividly. This man, he said, "Congratulations on winning the battle of the bands." And yeah, I'll always remember that. It's one of the best days of my life. It was incredible. And that was 21 years ago. And really that just like planted that pretty much that is the dragon. And that's the dragon I've been chasing ever since then, ever since 1998. I graduated high school in 1999. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do the college thing. I went to Michigan State University, and I brought my half stack into my dorm room. And I just got whacked out on diet pills. And I would just like play my guitar really loud. And I got multiple noise complaints in the dorm just because I had a Marshall JCM 900 full half stack, 4x12 cabinet in my dorm room. And instead of going to class, I would just get high and just play guitar and just like wish I had my band, because the band disbanded. We all went to college. We didn't have the band. So, and I remember like, I don't even remember like really, there was some sort of like motivational energy that like existed in me that I didn't question. I just did stuff. And so without that band, I was just trying to like create a different version of that band in East Lansing, where Michigan State University is. And I remember being whacked out on diet pills and like so high, and just like I saw these guys in the dorm room. There's like this basement like recreation area where you could like play music or whatever, but I saw these guys wheeling their amps into the basement. And I'm just like I'm just like wheeled my amp down there and just am like, let's jam, guys. And like these guys like had a band, they had band members, and they like had their own songs. And this fucking maniac on diet pills is just like, bros, like let's jam. And I'm like they just. It was hilarious. It takes me back to like that 8th grade thing. It was like it didn't matter like who it was. Like I just was like ready to fucking go with these dudes, and they just I just can't even imagine what they were thinking at the time, because I was like just this like whacked out maniac that just like wanted to rock so hard, and I probably just seemed like such a douchebag. They're just like, who is this like random sweaty dude, loud dude that is like looks like the veins in his neck are about to explode, and he just like brings down his half stack, and we all have these like little tiny combo amps. He's like, let's fucking go, let's jam. It's because I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to be in a band, like, but I don't know, like I grew up in a town where it's like everyone did the right thing, like not everyone, but like I got good grades in high school. I got like a scholarship to college, like. I was on the National Honor Society. I played football. I like was all-state choir. Like I smoked a lot of pot too. Like, but it's weird. I did all these things right. And
did those guys jam with you?
Did the guys jam with me? Yeah. But I think they were scared. I think they felt uneasy, you know? Mm-hmm. And they were like. They just kind of like, I kind of like browbeat them. Like I was really intense. I like browbeat people into doing stuff. Like, so, yeah, I remember it was the winter. It was almost the end of first semester of my first year of college. And I remember calling my dad and just being like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't remember the conversation. I just remember I was in my dorm room, and I remember just like wanting to go back to Northville to essentially to get the band back together. And yeah, like my parents were bummed because they wanted me to go to college and do the right thing, but like they just kind of were like, it's weird. They didn't really oppose me. So I moved back home, and then I was living at home, and my brother was a senior in high school, and I was like had just graduated high school, and so we kind of were like sharing a car and butting heads, and I got a couple different jobs, and we tried doing the band that won the Battle of Bands. We tried getting that band back together, and it didn't really work out. Like in a short period of time, the guys I was playing with had changed, their music taste had changed, like they weren't as into it. And like my friend Greg, who I wrote a lot of the original music with, like he was dating a girl, and like he was like starting to dress nice, and he was just like he was doing, he was just kind of like growing up a little bit, and I just wanted to be like I wanted to be an insane punk rock asshole guy. And so yeah, we ended up like starting to jam with our other friend Brian, and he was an amazing bass player. And Greg was a great writer, though. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's kind of like a history of my life type thing. I guess if this is gonna be like long form talking, I guess I might as well like tell long stories. And if this is the first episode of my podcast, SUPcast, why not just tell a long story so you can get to know me? I mean, it makes sense, because I'm gonna start bringing guests on this thing. I have a lot of people that I think we could gel with in the van if we decide to keep it in the van. Who knows where this could go? It could go anywhere. My producer is saying that maybe for my first episode I should do half an hour. It's like, hey, this story is going to take like at least 12. So I'm going to keep talking. Yeah. So yeah, we started this thing called Downtown Brown. And it was Sean, and it was Brian, and it was myself, and it is essentially was just a continuation of the high school band that won the Battle of the Bands. I was just keeping it going. I'm like, I got to keep this going, and it never felt like I was like pushing. It felt like I was being pulled, which is crazy, because really like the only time I felt like I was actually pushing this whole thing, this whole weird dream of mine to like get on stage with a guitar and a microphone and say dumb stuff, the only time I felt like I was pushing was like somewhat recently. because back then when I was young, it was pulling me, it was taking me, because it like there was no thought behind it. It was just like we're doing this. So I decided to go to art school. I got a scholarship to art school because I'm like pretty decent at drawing, and they took a look at my portfolio and they decided to give me some money, and I went to art school, and we got our downtown Brown thing going. So I ended up moving into a house, and we called this place Thunderdome. Like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But also in reference to a Mystery Science Theater episode where they said, you can reference a Thunderdome, but do not slam the Thunderdome and Beyond Thunderdome. It's like, I don't know. It's like just a whole like long-winded nerd joke about Thunderdomes. There could be many, but this, yeah. When my grandfather passed away, my mother inherited his house, which was in Dearborn, Michigan. And Dearborn, Michigan is a suburb of Detroit. It's a border city, it borders the city of Detroit, and it's like a working class town that was built when Henry Ford was like pretty much built the city for all of the plant workers. And so there's a long, long history of like blue collar, like Ford employees, and that's what my grandpa was. And when he got out of World War II, he's a Ford employee, and he got this house in Dearborn. And my mother was conceived in one of the rooms, and my mother and my aunt and my late uncle, they all grew up in that house. And we used to go visit my grandma and grandpa in the house. So there's a lot of history in that house, like. And my mom had the idea, she's like, I'm going to give you, Neil, and your college friends this house that no one's living in, so you have less of a commute to art school. And I was like, so we started renting this house, which is my grandpa's house, but we just called it Thunderdome, and we were just a bunch of dumb idiot kids. And we spray painted the walls, and we like had Teletubbies posters, and then we did like weird broken glass sculptures on the ceiling, and we pretty much messed up my grandpa's house, but we made it ours. And my mom wasn't really happy about that, but but we had this place where like we were starting our adult lives essentially. Like I was in my second try of college, and then everyone I was living with, we all were around the same age. We all were like 19, 20 years old, and we just had all of these like big ideas of what we wanted to do. And all I knew is that like I wanted to have this band, and I wanted to have it be big. Like I wanted it to take me somewhere, and I just wanted it to be the focus of my life. And so much so I dropped out of art school, and I'm just like, I'm gonna make this band thing happen. I was just like, I didn't even think like this could be stupid. Like this is a risky move, Neil. Like you need to go to college. Like you need to like have a backup plan. Like I didn't think of any of that. I'm like, screw it. Like I'm good at this. Like we won the Battle of the Bands in 1998. I'm good at this. And and then we played shows after that. Like I knew I was good at it. I knew that if I had a guitar and a microphone that I could like command an audience. I just knew that. And so when I quit art school, I'm like, all right, it's full on. Like we're going to do this band. And then the guys I originally started Downtown Brown with, they both quit because they thought I was a psychopath. I was on a lot of diet pills. I was addicted to diet pills at the time. There's this stuff called Ripped Fuel that they used to sell. It had ephedra in it, and they banned ephedra because it was killing athletes. But yeah, I got hooked on that stuff on and off for a number of years. And so just imagine this like hulked out, like really super determined, like rigid, stubborn, like sweaty dude just screaming at you, like play the song like this. This is gonna be the biggest thing ever. I remember the bass player that quit, Brian, he asked me, he's like, how far do you really plan on taking this? And this was in 2000. I said, how far do you plan on taking this? And I said, he said, all the way? And I don't know what all the way is, but like, it's however many years later, and I'm still doing it, and I'm in California, and We're about to go. We're about to tour as the backing band for HR from Bad Brains. So like, it may not have brought me riches. It may not have like, but it definitely like took me on a fucking journey, and we're here, and it's not over yet. So to answer Brian, whom I haven't talked to in person in years, not since Greg's wedding, which was in 2014, but you know, yeah, at the time I wanted to make it with music, and in a way I have, but not in a way where I have a retirement plan. And that's the thing. It's like the safe route, you definitely, if you bust your ass doing the safe route thing, you definitely like can maybe have like a retirement plan or something. But like, yeah, I don't have any of that. But okay, so long story short, we're back at the Thunderdome. My grandpa's house. And those guys all quit the band, and I had just quit art school. And I'm like, I need to find more members. So what's funny is like when Downtown Brown started, like the first recorded version of Downtown Brown was already the second set of band members. Like people are like, oh, you know, the original members, it has no original members except for me, even from the very first recorded thing. Like the first recorded album we did, Moist and Ridiculous, was with Wolf and Swisher. They came after Brian and Sean. Not original members. So like the only original members since the very beginning of this whole thing has been me. This has always been my thing. But what's been cool about it is like whoever came into the fold, they added their sauce to the mix and made it like kind of like a unique thing. Every time the band switches band members, it changes, you know, because everyone has their unique kind of style to bring to the table. It's kind of a beautiful thing. It ended up becoming like this big collective. And so I've dropped out of art school, but I was still hanging out down there because there's a bunch of freaks and weirdos, and I might have been like selling small bags of pot at the time, but definitely like eating a lot of diet pills. and being a sweaty, like weird, motivated, like wanting to rock freak guy. I just remember there was this girl, Jessica, and I'm like, I need to find a bass player. Jessica went to art school. She was like the same age as all of us, and she said, hey, there's this guy, John. He's a really good bass player. And I said, ooh, I would like to meet him. She's like, let's go meet him right now. And we went up, there was a building at the art school called the ACB. And it essentially was like, there were apartments that kids going to the art school, their parents paid for them to live in. And so I go up 2 floors, and there's this guy, and did I meet him then? No, I didn't meet him then. I was told about him, and then I went to this Halloween party. I was on a bunch of diet pills, and probably drinking heavily, you know. And I was like pretty out of my mind, and here's this dude like with like the Marilyn Manson like contacts, so you know you don't see his pupils, just white, and he's got like long black hair, and he was just like. I remember like, oh, this is when the band was still had Brian in it, and I remember giving him a flyer. He tells me the story like this. He's like, you gave me a flyer and said, come see my band. Because I was so sure of myself and I was so confident and just such a young, dumb prick that I just would like give flyers to people, whether or not like I even had any inkling that they might be interested in what I was promoting. I was just like shameless. Just like, here's a flyer, bro. Check it out. Downtown Brown. And I guess like I was dressed as a plumber at this Halloween party, and I guess I gave him my plunger to hold while I like freaked on this chick. I was like chasing this girl around, and I like pretty much like, here dude, hold my plunger, come see my band. That ended up being Wolf, like. And so when Jessica's like, I know this guy John, yeah, that's how it worked. I met him first at that party, and I had no idea who he was, and I didn't care. He was just some dude with, you know, the Marilyn Manson contacts and long black hair, and he just looked like he hated his life. He just looked like he didn't want to be at this party, and I was just chasing some girl around. I'm like, here, bro, see my band, hold my plunger, And I didn't think anything of it. Next thing I know, like we're knocking on his door at the ACB in the dorm room, and the dude, he like opens up the door, and his hair was probably red at the time, and dude like has his like nipples pierced and is just like shirtless and just like just this little angry looking dude. and Jessica's like, you guys should be in this band. And yeah, and then next thing we know, we're auditioning drummers, and we found, there was a dude that was in this like punk band named Swisher, and we just kind of like stole him from his pop punk band, and he played a good funk beat. So yeah, we had Downtown Brown, the actual like first recorded Downtown Brown lineup at that point, and it was just on from there, dude. We just wanted to be the most ridiculous, stupid, like fun thing to ever exist. Like we wore costumes at all the shows. We like dressed up. Always like we had different weird haircuts and like mullet wigs, and we would like pour cream corn on ourselves, and we had like blow up dolls that we would like fuck with beer bottles on stage, and we would. We would wear cabbage on our heads, and we would just do all of this silly shit. We would drink our own urine. Like, we did all this silly shit. And we didn't think about it. It just came so naturally. We just, like, had a fucking blast, dude. And we just, like, we were so stupidly confident that, like, what we were doing was going to resonate. We just, like, we're like a band with no specific genre that just jumps from genre to genre and then mixes them all up and like does a bunch of like silly like laser beams on the guitar, like just a bunch of silly stuff. We're just like, yeah, this is going to work. And it was so weird because like those first 3 years we did it in Detroit, like everyone, like people still went to shows, and everyone was like kind of our age, and we were just like we would just. There would be just a lot of people that would come out. It was kind of a success. Like it was a local success thing. Like we went from like playing in the basement of the Thunderdome to getting back onto that stage at St. Andrews Hall within like 2 years. So I'm chasing that dragon, and I like 1998. By the time it was like 2003, we were like direct support for the Aquabats. Like at St. Andrews Hall, I was like back. I was like right back to that moment, that dragon I was chasing, and all it took was for me to be like just tenacious as shit, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and then the next thing I know is we're back at that point where we're playing in front of big crowds, and like when we opened up for the Aquabats in 2004, was it 2004? Yeah, we had this like big giant stuffed animal, and like we threw it out in the audience, and they like tore it up and they tore it to shreds, and it was just like it was literally snowing inside the venue because those big carnival stuffed animals are like filled to the brim with like these little beads, and when they tore that thing open, it just exploded. It was fantastic. And yeah, we put out our first record in 2002, in the summer of 2002, and it's just it's insane to think that was that long ago. Like it's 2019 right now, and that was 2002. Do the math. 19 minus 2. It's been 16 years since that record came out, and I'm living in California right now, and like I'm still trying to get. It's hard out here. I'm still trying to get on my feet, and I wake up some days and I'm just like, dude, I can't believe that this much time has gone by, and I've been doing the same thing the entire time. Like it got to the point where, that version of the band, like certain members dropped off, like Wolf quit. And we fired Swisher, and then we got this other drummer, Tom. And then when Rob joined the band in 2005, he was like, I got a van. He's like, why are you guys just playing in Detroit and in Toledo? and Lansing. We were playing in 3 towns, Detroit, Toledo, and Lansing. And I never thought, like, hey, if we're going to do this thing, we have to take it on the road. I never thought that. I had a job that, like, gave me health insurance, and I was, like, making decent money. So we were just like a local band, you know, that, like, had somewhat of a following and did a lot of dumb shit. And, like, we got some attention. So we got a bunch of press. And we, like, drew a lot of people locally, and, like, we were kind of a thing. But then when Rob joined, he's like, why don't we go to Chicago? And I'm like, So we started going to Chicago. We started going to Indiana. Started going to Minneapolis. And next thing I know, we're, like, a regionally touring band. By the time 2007 hit, he's like, why are we just touring the region? Like, you got it. Like, we should just do this. Like, quit your job. And I remember we were on tour. We were in Columbus, and we were playing with this band called the Mathematicians from upstate New York. And they were just this fantastic band. They were, like, these nerdy dudes that played, like, it was a mixture of, like Aphex Twin and Beastie Boys, mixed with, like, some punk rock. And I just remember the drummer, Tim, I'm just like, yeah, I really want to tour the nation, because these guys were, like, independently touring the country. And I just remember he looked at me and he said, quit being a pussy and just fucking do it. And I was selling carpet at the time for Empire, like 800-588-2300 Empire. Do you know that? Is that out here?
Yeah.
That's in California? It's a Chicago company. Yeah. So I was an in-store marketing representative for this carpet company. And and I'd been doing this job for about 2.5 years. I was, like, really bored with it and really starting to feel depressed. Like, I didn't know what depression was and anxiety, like, really was until I was, like, 23. Is, like, when it really hit me. Having both those things in a really debilitating way. And, like, dumping alcohol on it was just self-medicating. But I just remember, like, being super depressed and like just hating that job. And it made me feel the same way that college did. It's like, I'm stuck here. Like, I just want to do the music thing. And so, like, I just remember, like, yeah, I remember not knowing what that feeling was, like being depressed and being anxious and, like, and feeling like the floor was moving and, like, trying to, like, walk when I was doing my job, because they put me in a Sam's Club, and, like, it felt like the floor was wobbly, and like my vision would, like, this is like anxiety and depression, and I'm still, and it's so, what's so funny is there's so much, I'm still dealing with that right now, but I remember, like, I was on my cell phone, is one of those brick phones, the Nokia phones. And I was just talking on the phone when I should have been working. I remember my manager came in, because she would only come visit me at work. But I remember she came in and she's like, what are you doing? You've been getting complaints. And I had this apron. I just remember I folded the apron and I gave it to her. And she said, are you quitting? And I said, yes. But I really wish I would have just kept talking on my cell phone, and I would have got fired, because then I would have got unemployment. And then I could have just collected unemployment when I went on my first national tour in 2007. When I quit that job is when it was, 10, 11, 12 years ago. That's when we first started touring nationally. And, and I did that for 10 years. Like, we would drive around playing shows for, like, 4 or 6 weeks at a time. The last tour I just did was 2 months. We played 38 shows. We had, like, a 5-day break in between. And I swapped out band members 11 dates in. And we just put out our 7th album, and we literally just played 38 shows. And it's weird, too. What's weird about doing something for so long is, like, we just did, like, essentially, like, the longest tour we've done in the history of the band. And I had a guy come up to me recently, and he's like, are you still doing that band? And it's like, here I am thinking that this like highly publicized like 38-day run that like I put so much work into like making sure that everyone knew about, and it's hilarious because like in this day and age, especially with like everyone is so bombarded with social media, and I'm like someone notorious for like pushing stuff really hard on social media. I'm trying to really give it a break. I think social media is kind of cancer, but like now that I'm starting this podcast thing and I'm doing some other stuff, I'm gonna have to actually utilize social media again, which I'm afraid to do. But I think it's kind of a necessary evil. It's terrible. But like to think that like you've been doing this band for almost 20 years and you just put out what you think is the greatest album. California, this album I just put out, I'm like so proud of. And then we just did 38 shows. We're like driving all around the country, like, and we hit it hard, dude. We played like so many shows. And then some dude's like, "You still doing that thing?" It's like, "You still doing that thing?" It's like, dude, that's all I've been doing for 20 years, that thing. It's the focus of my life. And this is the question that I have, is like, what happens when the main focus of your life, you start to wonder if you should do something different? And therein lies a tough question, because when I was 17 years old, it was so clear. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. We won that Battle of the Bands, and it was like there was no looking back. And when I quit that carpet job, it's like there's no looking back. I'm going to drive around in a van until I'm dead. Touring, playing shows, because this is my favorite thing in the fucking world. I want to do nothing else. What happens when you get to the point where you're 38 years old and you got a bad back and everything, not everything, but most of the shit that people promised they would do for you, they didn't. And most of the stuff you accomplished, you had to do yourself. What do you do when you just are kind of like burnt out on that original idea that you had of what you wanted to be? You know, what do you do when you're at the point where you're just like, what's plan B? You're like halfway through your life and you're like thinking about a plan B, like after 38 years of being alive. People tell you always have a plan B. What if you didn't? What if you didn't have a plan B? And now you're in a van in Fullerton, California, and you're wondering, what else could I do? What else could I do with my life? And that's where I'm at right now. And you know what? Like for an anxious dude, it's not a fun place to be, because like things made so much sense when I knew exactly what I wanted to be doing. And that was just like living in a van, playing shows. What happens when you do that for 10 years and you know, as good as you think you are, and as much validation as you get from people everywhere you go. You guys are great. You should be bigger. You guys are amazing. I don't understand why people don't like your band. It gets to the point where you're just like, I don't understand either, but maybe this is not worth killing myself over. Maybe I need to be a little bit more selective of what I do with my time. Maybe I need to try some new things in 2019. And so here I am, with my lovely producer in a running van in Fullerton, California. I'm recording audio into a microphone and video. Because we hit 1,000 subs, baby. We hit 1,000 subs on YouTube. We started that channel in 2005. It's 2019. We hit 1,000, baby. So all I got to say is, you know, it may be a slow trajectory of growth with this community that we've cultivated through this music that we created with our hearts and souls over the years. But Jesus Christ, we hit 1,000 subs, man. That's the beginning. Or who knows? Like maybe none of this will ever catch. But it's kind of nice to not really care as much about that shit anymore. Like I've been surviving so long on so little that like it's like what Harry Bob told me. Harry Bob Harry Bob, a.k.a. Rob Bates, he's the dude that said, quit the job and let's go on tour. And he recently came... he recently came for NAMM, which is in Anaheim, and he stayed with me for a few days, and like we got into talking, and he's like, dude, he's like, the internet, there's millions and millions of people consuming content on the internet, like you driving around in a van and playing shows in front of very small amounts of people, like you've been doing it for 10 years. Like, how much has it grown? And the answer is, it hasn't grown a whole lot. We played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows. Like the model in the 90s was you get in a van, people tell their friends, and then more people come out every time you play. We played shows in front of hundreds of people and sold thousands of dollars worth of T-shirts. And those people, the next time we play in that town, where are they? You know, we target ads and we use AdSense and we monetize like ads through Facebook and social media. It's like, where are those people? Where are the people that said, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen? You guys are the most entertaining live band I've ever seen in my entire life. This was amazing. This was a top 3 live shows I've ever seen. And you go back to that town, there's fucking 5 people there. And they're like, 4 of them are in the opening band, and one of them is a girlfriend, and then there's the bar staff. It's like, what happened like a year before when like we had people telling us we were the greatest thing ever? And so Rob tells me, he's like, dude, it's like, I told you 3 years ago, start a podcast. It's like, you're a character. People will listen to you talk. I don't know. Am I a character? Like, is this a voice you want to hear talk? But so I'm just gonna, but it's 2019, you know, we're gonna try new things. I'm gonna listen to Rob Bates, and I'm gonna diversify my skill set. And I'm not gonna just be a guy that drives around in a van and plays music with his band. I'm gonna be that, because we're still gonna do that here and there. I'm gonna be that, but I'm gonna try to do some other stuff. I'm gonna try to get on a microphone and maybe tell some jokes. I'm gonna, you know, have an acoustic guitar thing. I might buy a looper pedal. I don't know what I'm going to do. That's the thing, though, is I'm not dead yet. I'm 38 years old, but I'm not dead. And I thought, you know, there was a time where, I didn't care if I died because I was so drunk and so miserable. And I've been sober from alcohol for like 10 years. And so it's like I actually kind of care about being alive, and I actually kind of care about like doing something. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because my dad didn't really love me, like, or didn't really like. He had a problem showing me that he cared about me growing up. Like I always wanted to do something great. So maybe I'm just gonna keep trying other shit, and I don't really know where I'm going with this. We're at 55 minutes. I've been talking for 55 minutes.
So what's the podcast going to be about, I guess?
What's the podcast going to be about? It's just going to be this dude, Neil, talking.
And you're going to have guests on?
And yeah, and I'm going to have guests too. I feel like I didn't want to guest for the first podcast because I just wanted to talk about who I am and where I'm at now in my life. I'm a dude that likes to say dumb stuff on a microphone. I want to do it as much as possible. And I figure, you know, this falls under that blanket. You know, because I remember I did when I was raising money to get this van, and I bought this van 3 years ago. I put a $10,000 down payment on this thing. This is like the nicest thing I own. I'm like, I used to live in this thing. I used to live in this van. And I was just like jazzed about that. I was just like, dude, I'm in California, man. I made it. You know, I didn't have a dollar to my name. I didn't have a job. But I didn't give a shit. I was like, music brought me here. Like, I was proud, man. That's wild. I'm kind of tripping out right now. Yeah, 3 years ago I bought this thing. But yeah, what I was saying is like talking into a microphone, saying dumb shit into a microphone like that. I remember when I was raising funds, I said I want to go to California and I want to say dumb shit into a microphone. And I'm having a garage sale in order to facilitate the purchase of a new vehicle. This new vehicle I will be taking out to Los Angeles, California, where I will continue the pursuance of my lifelong dream to be on stage and say dumb shit. So this counts. This isn't like me delineating from the plan. The plan was to say dumb shit into a microphone. And look at me, I'm in a van saying dumb shit into a microphone. And that's what this podcast is going to be. It's going to be Neil Patterson. That's me. SUPcast. Because there's this Canadian dude, and he plays amazing bass. And we went on tour, and we would just say sup. We said sup so many times. And Bobbins too. Bobbins a supper. You know, and then there's stand-up paddleboard. Like like California is full of sup, dude. And I just want to say sup to anyone that's listening, and sup for tuning into this stream of consciousness, me blah, 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 blahing. But that's pretty much like you just kind of heard a brief history of who I is and what makes me tick and what I want to be doing. And like, let's just like try some things. 2019, everyone should just try some new stuff. Like, if you haven't really played with a butthole, give it a try. You know? Let's try some new things. Let's kiss dudes. I'm not afraid anymore. It's true. I'm not afraid anymore. I've been alive. I didn't even think I'd make it to 30. I was such a drunk fucking fool. And I was so depressed and so anxious and just drinking and fat as fuck. I didn't even think I was going to make it to 30, and I didn't care. And now I'm fucking 38. And it's 2019. And I live in a beautiful place. I mean, like, really, let's try some new stuff. I don't know if anyone out there is even going to be listening to this, but if you are, let's make 2019 the year where we actually, like, step outside of our comfort zone a little bit and maybe get motivated. And I'm telling you this because I need to tell myself this. Because if I get caught in that same old crap, driving around the country playing gigs and just think my life is going to end up different, it's not. I love playing music. I want to do that. But I want to do it, you know, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. I don't want to suffer for it anymore. I want to do it when I know it's going to be good, which may mean less shows. But it's 2019. I'm trying some new stuff. And this is the first episode of my podcast. And this is not brought to you by anyone because there's no sponsors. It's brought to you by a dude who wants to say dumb stuff in a van on a microphone. I'm sweaty. And goodbye. I'm sweaty. And goodbye.